Are you ready for a game 7?
You are Locked On Wolves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Positively euphoric 6 win for the Minnesota Timberwolves to extend this series to Game 7. Welcome into the Locked On Wolves Postcast. My name's Sam Ekstrom, filling in for the Postcaster General. Luke Inman still on his Italian vacation. I'm sure wishing he could be here tonight, but we're joined by our Wolves expert, Canis Hoopus, Tyler Metcalf. He's at Team Metcalf on Twitter. And Tyler, what an unbelievable game tonight for the Timberwolves. We're going to get into the Anthony Edwards performance, the J-Mac performance, the defense getting its mojo back, a 115-70 victory, 45-point margin. Wolves led by as many as 50, and they got free chicken in the fourth quarter for the fans. A Game 6 blowout in a bizarre, zany series that will go the distance Sunday night in Denver, Game 7. Let's jump right into it, Tyler, because this game has so many elements. The morale was so low coming off the Game 5 loss. Did it start with the news that Mike Conley was going to play? I think there's a lot of angles to attack, but just chronologically, earlier in the day, Mike Conley, we learned, is going to play in this game. What kind of a boost do you think that gave?
And it's huge whenever Mike's in there. Just, we know that he's not always going to be this huge, big time scoring threat, but just his presence, his consistency, his leadership, his decision making, it means so much for this team and takes off so much pressure from guys like Ant and Cat. He just simplifies everything and is just one of these guys that raises the game of everyone around him. So, he had an awesome shooting night tonight, 13 points, 3 of 6 from 3. He was really good, but just him being there and being out there and being able to bring the ball up and, make that extra pass, run a side pick and roll with Rudy and put pressure on the defense in different ways. It means so much because guys like Ant can then just take 30 seconds off and take a breather, take a deep breath, and know that the offense is still in really good hands. So it was huge.
Do you want to guess some of the plus minuses tonight, or have you looked at them already?
I have the box score up, and they are absurd.
Anthony Edwards, plus 43 in the game. Rudy Gobert, plus 30. Conley, plus 26. Could go down the line. Everybody so positive. And can we just relish that Nikola Jokic was a minus 25 tonight? I mean, how fun is that to finally give Joker a taste of his medicine? And this series, Tyler, has been just a bunch of dramatic shifts, right? We've had a pretty competitive Game 1, I would say, a blowout Game 2, a blowout Game 3, and not just your garden variety blowouts either. Like, we're talking call the fight in the third quarter level blowouts. Game 4, a little more competitive, and then Game 5 turned into a laugher late. And this one was a laugher from very early on. So it's a series where you don't know which team is going to show up day to day. Very unpredictable. And yet another, what was the swing from Game 5 to Game 6? 60 points? That's the second time in this series that's happened.
Yeah, it's wild. I don't know how else to describe it because, like you said, there were a couple competitive games. And I think Game 5 was pretty competitive up until that fourth quarter where Wolves went super cold. Ant's offense never came alive, and then Joker just pulled away, and it's like, okay, well, that's that. And tonight it was just kind of the inverse of that, and the Wolves their offense was clicking from start. Their defense was incredible, and like the Nuggets were getting from their role players and their bench in these last 3 games, the Wolves role players and bench really stepped up in a major way tonight, and it's really been those groups of players that have been the huge kind of swing factors in this series. So it was awesome to see Anthony Edwards come out, guns firing, super confident, super relaxed, really measured in his approach after kind of a dud in Game 5. And he was fantastic yet again for the third or fourth time in this series.
All right, story time. So I'm at the Locked On company meetings right now in the state of Utah. I watched most of the entire game on my phone in the car coming back from a national park. However, I had a blind spot, Tyler. It was 9-2 Denver in the first quarter, and we lost cell service. I had nothing. I had no clue what was going on. Service comes back. Timberwolves were up 26-11. There was a 20-0 run in there, Tyler, that you need to tell me about, because obviously that was the catalyst that put the Wolves over the top and got them up early in this game and really made all the difference. Tell me about the 20-0 run.
Yeah, big reason was just Anthony Edwards taking over, going full on superstar mode, attacking the rim, knocking down shots. He had this really awesome on-ball steal where he pokes it loose, gets out in transition for the easy dunk. I think that was like one of his first couple buckets. Just a great way to kind of find his rhythm and get in a groove. And then they just kept piling it on over and over and over, and combined with their defense. And what Jaden did on defense tonight was absolutely incredible, holding Michael Porter to 3 of 9 shooting, 1 of 6 from 3. Jamal Murray with another dud in this series, 4 of 18 from the field, 2 of 7, a -32. And Jaden was a huge reason for both of those. His impact, not only on defense, but then he showed up on offense too. And he got in a rhythm early. They got a couple easy ones. Everyone was feeding off that crowd, which was absolutely incredible tonight. And that big run to start it off was huge, because they opened the game with that really nice set that led to the Gobert oop from Cat. And it's like, oh God, that's a gorgeous way to start this game. Denver goes on a quick 9-0 run, and then it would have been really easy for Minnesota to kind of get tight and start to panic. And because things weren't going their way, it was getting a little stiff. And then exact opposite happened. Floodgates open. Defense was incredible. And then they were just knocking down their shots and getting really easy looks by being super aggressive attacking the rim.
Yeah, a 13-0 run in the second quarter to follow the 20-0 run in the first quarter. Wolves led by as many as 24 in the first half. They won every quarter of the game. The Nuggets scored 14 in the first and 9 points in the final quarter. I know the scrubs were in, but there was a point too in the second quarter where the Wolves were up 11. Like you said, the Nuggets had closed a bit. They took out Jokic, and the Wolves promptly went on an 8-0 run. And they did a little bit of this in game 5 too, that they won the Jokic minutes, or the non-Jokic minutes, I should say. That's going to be huge in game 7. And the bench too for the Timberwolves outscores Denver's. And it gets a little messy with the late game stuff, because you've got Luka points, but it amounts to 36-9.
Yeah.
And they were stuck on 2 for first of all, stuck on 0 for the longest time. Christian Brown had a dunk. Really, 2 bench points in the meaningful portion of the game. My one concern is that this was just such a dramatic shift. Denver played so terribly that I'm already preparing for kind of a reversion to the mean in game 7. Is that a valid concern to say that Denver's not going to play that badly again?
I mean, as a Minnesota sports fan, that's always a valid concern. Yeah, I mean, to some extent, but then you kind of look at the guys who didn't contribute tonight, and it was Christian Brown, 1 of 6 from the field, 0 of 2 from 3. He's not a shooter. Justin Holiday finally cooled off, 0 of 5 from the floor, 0 of 3 from 3. Reggie Jackson, 0 of 6 from the floor, 0 of 1 from 3. And those guys have been lighting up the Timberwolves these last 3 games. And then even Aaron Gordon, they were able to kind of keep him in check at just 4 of 7. He's still shooting well, 2 of 4 from 3, but the big you mentioned the non-Jokic minutes there in the second quarter, and those have been minutes that the Timberwolves have been losing these last couple games. And the sequence that really stuck out to me was when Aaron Gordon had like a little pick and pop situation, and Gobert had to show on the ball handler, then recovered to Aaron Gordon, denied the drive, made him dribble out of it. Gordon snaked back through the lane and, took a really tough contested fadeaway mid-ranger that Gobert nearly blocked, and it ended up being an air ball. Wolves go the other way. Gordon's been making that shot these last couple games. And if you're able to kind of really make things even more difficult for him, especially in those non-Jokic minutes like they did tonight, it's a great pathway to kind of dominating those minutes.
Yeah, and a good stat that someone pointed out in the comments, Nikola Jokic, only 2 assists tonight for a guy that averages 9. He was not particularly effective. He did end up with, 22 and 9. He put up a decent box score, but not a Jokic box score, not a Game 5 box score. That was huge. Denver shoots 30%. That'll probably get better in Game 7, but it's not as if, Tyler, the Wolves emptied the clip tonight offensively. They only shot 46.5% as well, 37% from 3. I think that could actually be improved, but we'll get into some of their individual performances beyond Jaden. I want to talk about Cat. I want to talk about Edwards coming up after this on the Locked On Wolves postcast. We are presented tonight by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need and the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, thanks for joining us. Locked On Wolves postcast. We do this after every game, and the season's not over yet. Game 7, Sunday night. I'm guessing myself and Jack Borman probably doing that show, and that's going to be emotional. Win or lose, that is going to be a doozy, folks. So make sure you tune in after Game 7, after a couple days off, to prepare yourselves for what's to come. Tyler, it's the first Game 7 for the Timberwolves since 2004. The Kings game, the KG game. Who is going to be that guy in Game 7? We'll get into that in our final segment of the show, where we preview that a little more. But let's talk about Ants night. Anthony Edwards, part of that 20-0 run in the first quarter, he had a huge first. And it seems like you know almost instantly which Ant you're going to get in this series.
Yep.
The way he plays in the first quarter is indicative. And tonight, 14 points, it was indicative. He was engaged. He was aggressive. He shot the ball well. Your thoughts on Edwards night?
He looked like a 27-year-old, where the game was just really slow. The decision-making was really sound. And you look at his final box score of 27 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds, good numbers, but not stuff that you're like, oh my God, like what a superstar performance. But this was a superstar performance. It just felt really, really easy for him. He wasn't forcing stuff. He was really aggressive getting downhill. Jokic has had zero interest protecting the rim all series. And when he's aggressive and getting downhill and getting a couple easy baskets at the rim to kind of get himself in a rhythm, those are typically the games where we see him shoot really well. And, 40+% from 3. And tonight, 4 of 9 from 3. So it like you said, the energy with him is typically, especially in these playoffs, we know in the first couple minutes, who are we getting? And tonight from tip, it was like, okay, he's locked in. He's going to make life not only difficult for Denver on the defensive end, but then on the offensive end as well, where he was picking up guys super physical on ball with Jamal Murray. I loved some of the adjustments that Minnesota used with their pick and roll with him, where they had Naz and Jaden kind of ghosting screens a little more, which made it a little difficult for Denver to immediately double and blitz Ant out of that. And if they did, then he's kicking to a wide open Jaden or Naz who are launching from 3 or driving or attacking mismatches. So it was just a nice little adjustment where it took a lot of pressure off of Ant and put a ton of pressure on Denver's defense.
Yeah, and having Jaden as that option is just a game changer.
Yeah.
When Jaden has a game, this team rarely loses. If you look back in the season box scores, I'll probably do this after the show and try to find games where Jaden scores 20 plus. I'm guessing the Wolves haven't lost more than once or twice. Having that third guy means everything. Tonight, he was their second leading scorer, 21 points. He missed his first three and then goes 8 of 9 after that. 3 of 5 total from distance, 4 rebounds, 2 blocks, a steal, and assist, plus 23 on the night. And he was a lockdown defender. And speaking of defense, pretty clear early, the Wolves were not going to let Jokic beat Rudy Gobert one-on-one. They weren't going to let it happen. Cat, the primary defender early, and a lot more doubles. Do you like what they did with the defensive structure against Jokic tonight?
Yeah, and it all starts with Cat. Only 3 fouls on the night for him, and when he's playing that kind of physical but also disciplined and just be in the way, because Jokic is going to get 20 plus in his sleep. He's that good. It's going to happen. But when you're over aggressive and fouling him out near half court and just doing dumb stuff that takes you out of your rhythm and lets them get into the bonus quicker, it just makes life way too easy for them. And they didn't do that tonight. They were a lot more disciplined. And then not only were they a little more decisive and a little more consistent with their doubles on Jokic in the post, it was the backside defenders who were way more active in scrambling and contesting and really kind of making life difficult for those shooters that didn't allow Jokic to kind of start piling up assists and get everyone else in a rhythm. So all of the attention goes to Rudy and Cat because they're right on ball, but Conley, Nikhil, Naz, Ant, Jaden, all of those guys on the weak side are just as, if not more important.
Mm-hmm. It's mind-boggling to me, and we talked about this in segment 1. Mind-boggling that we can see the Wolves team we saw in Game 2 and Game 6, and they just have looked like such a disconnected group the last 3 games. So for them to find it again tonight, it's incredible the chess game that's being played between Chris Finch and Michael Malone. And the personnel in this series is so high-end, but also these high-end guys have had some clunkers, right? You've had great players having terrible games. You've had great teams playing terrible games. Are we in store for a Game 7 where these two teams bring their absolute best and put on a show Sunday night? We'll get into that in our final segment of the Locked On Wolves postcast. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. We all carry around different stressors, big and small. I was stressed about this game all day. When we keep them bottled up, start to affect us negatively. Therapy is a safe place to get things off your chest and to figure out how to work through whatever's weighing you down. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, suited to your schedule. Fill out a brief questionnaire, get matched with a licensed therapist, and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. It's helpful, learning positive coping skills, how to set boundaries, empower yourself to be the best version of yourself. So get it all off your chest with BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. All right, he's Tyler Metcalf. I'm Sam Ekstrom, filling in from Utah. The Locked On Company meetings. Luke Inman is over in Italy, but we are finding a way to bring you a reaction show. We have to, after a 45-point, 115-70 win on the postcast. So Game 7, coming up on Sunday. A weird series, as we mentioned. 2 games that were remotely competitive, and not like they came down to the last minute either. I mean, a 7-point game, an 8-point game, and then 4 blowouts.
Yeah.
What can we possibly be able to predict for what's going to happen in Game 7? I am preparing for these two teams to finally bring their best on the same night. That is what I'm preparing for. It's going to be a rock fight at times. It's going to be a defensive slogfest, I think. And the last time the Wolves played a Game 7, they beat the Kings 83-80 20 years ago. Something tells me if the score was 83-80, I wouldn't be surprised. I think it's going to be one of those games where it's hard to score.
If it's that score, I really like that for the Timberwolves. I think that plays right into their hand. I mean, prediction wise, who knows with this series, because it's been all over the place. I would be shocked if, if the stars didn't come out to play. I expect the very best from Jokic. I expect the very best from Ant. And then I think Jamal and or Michael Porter are going to have a huge game. Both have been really bad this entire series, especially Porter. He hasn't shown up at all. Another single digit scoring night for him. Jamal Murray minus 32 tonight. He was awful. Looked like he hurt his elbow. He had a big game 3, but outside of that, he's kind of been a non-factor. I expect at least one of them to show up. So the kind of question is, who on the Wolves is going to match him? Where tonight, Jaden McDaniels matched Jokic in scoring, basically, 1 point off. But if he's doing that, that's awesome for the Wolves. And is he going to show up again in a similar fashion? Is Nikhil going to be able to knock down 2 to 3 threes? Is Cat going to be disciplined and moving the ball and knocking down his shots? And he had a quiet scoring night tonight, but I thought his decision-making, his passing, his rebounding, his defense was exquisite. It was exactly what we needed it to be tonight. And then Rudy was awesome on defense. So I think it's safe to be really confident in Anthony Edwards coming out, guns firing, ready to get his points. I'd be shocked if he scored anything under 25. But who's going to be that second guy that kind of joins him and matches what one of MPJ, Jamal Murray, and or Aaron Gordon are doing?
Yeah, something tells me the Nuggets are going to load up on Anthony Edwards. They're going to dare Jaden McDaniels to do what he just did again. And honestly, he probably won't. Like, this was probably the Jaden game. The Wolves might have wasted the Jaden game in a 45-point win. They didn't need it tonight. They needed it in game 7, but someone else will have to step up. We've also got a lot of comments about the Anthony Edwards injury scare tonight, which I want to touch on with you too, Tyler, because I mean, this is just the Anthony Edwards that we've gotten to know this season. He is impermeable to injury. Even when it seems like he's never going to stand up again, this guy shakes off everything. So were you legitimately concerned at this one where he was face down, holding his back, holding his hip? Jokic looks concerned. Were you concerned?
A little bit, because it's always scary when someone falls flat on their back from that kind of height at that speed. But we've also seen this from Ant a lot, where whether he's maybe embellishing a little bit or just not used to getting hurt, where it's like, oh my God, what is that? It's all new to him in some sense, but he's also super tough and comes back from these things every single time. So once he kind of got up and was walking around, we knew that he was at least going to shoot the free throws because he had to stay in the game. And then he started kind of jogging around, picked up Jamal Murray full court right away, which, like, once he did that, it's like, okay, we're good to go. It's going to tighten up after the game, but we'll throw some ice on it, throw a heating pad. Jamal Murray might have one, and we're good to go for game 7. So, it's always scary when someone falls that hard and that aggressively, but he's 22. He's a freak athlete. Wasn't shocked that he bounced right back.
Yeah, I mean, health ends up being a big story in this game, with Mike Conley playing, Anthony Edwards not being seriously hurt. They got to take him off the floor early. We got Luka minutes. Will we have a Luka versus Luka Western Conference Finals? That's what I'm rooting for. We've also got Kyle. I mean, let me throw this up again. Is somebody going to give the KG speech before game 7? That's what I'm wondering. We got rocket launchers and grenades coming at the Denver Nuggets. Ryan, yes, and is the new Xavier Rhodes. Probably got a little, longer shelf life than Xavier Rhodes. He actually broke down, hopefully. But an incredible 115-70 Wolves win tonight at Target Center. Fans who did not get to see a win at home in this series until tonight. A euphoric atmosphere.
Yeah.
The fans got chicken in the fourth quarter. They led by as many as 50 points. Did you see the ticket prices tonight sunk below $100 too, Tyler? Like, people kind of,
oh my goodness,
people really gave up on this team locally. They hadn't lost 3 games all year until game 5. they lost the third game. And again, everything is zigging when the media goes one way, it's zagging right back the other way. And I just don't, I can't possibly predict what's going to happen in this game 7. I'm almost at a loss for words about how bizarre this series has been. If anybody has the information and wants to let me know how road teams do historically in game 7s, I don't know if you have that top of head, Tyler.
Oh, I do not.
It feels to me like recently, in recent NBA history, home court hasn't meant as much in game 7s. And it certainly hasn't meant a lot in this series until the last 2 games. So and again, this is the result of the Wolves losing game 82. Like, this is what you were afraid of, is that you'd have to play a game 7 on the road. Do you think that's going to be a significant issue for the Timberwolves?
I don't. I think the leadership on this team is as good as ever historically. There'll obviously be some nerves and whatnot at the start, and I'm sure that Denver crowd is going to be absolutely insane. But they've won there twice, just like a week ago. So it's not like Denver's arena has been some fortress that the Timberwolves have been unable to crack or damage. They've won there before in the playoffs, in the regular season. So these two teams have been incredible going back and forth for the last handful of years. I think it's one of the most fun rivalries in the sport right now. So it's only fitting that we're getting a game 7 at the defending champs' home. If you want to be the best, you have to beat the best. And what better way to do it than a game 7 in their arena? This is the kind of stuff that guys like Anthony Edwards were made for. If he's going to be that legit top 3, top 5 player in the world, this is the game where you go in, you take over, and you show out. So I think they're going to be ready. Mike Conley wants this so bad. Rudy Gobert wants this. So they all do. So I would be really surprised if they came out completely flat.
Sunday night, Wolves Nuggets game 7. We'll be here on the Locked On Wolves postcast after that concludes. Can't wait for that show. It's going to be intense either way. Tyler, thank you for being awesome. Thank you for your information. Apologies on my janky setup here in Utah, but we had to bring you a show, and we did tonight. Thanks for the engagement in the comments. You can subscribe to Locked On Sports Minnesota, get notified when we go live, as we will on Sunday night, or hear the audio of the show, the Locked On Wolves podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts. Follow Tyler Metcalf on Twitter /X. Follow me at Sam Ekstrom. Thanks a lot for watching and listening. Game 7, 72 hours from now. See ya.